All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to jump right in today. I just got done reviewing some new Tom Bilyeu content, and that's what we're going to cover today. So most of you who are come back to the channel, you know I'm a huge fan of impact theory, which is Tom's called media YouTube channel. And typically, Tom has guests onto the show that he interviews, and obviously he's a part of the conversation, generating the questions and participating, but it's usually generally about the guests themselves. So when I saw this one, which is an actual keynote speech from Tom at a conference that isn't his own, I was really interested because it's very rare that we see him as the dedicated guest elsewhere, or at least maybe I just tune into impact theory myself first and foremost. So Tom's keynote speech was in kind of a broad title, but it was about success and life. It really involved a lot of Q&A from the crowd, which was really great to see folks who were there interact with Tom and then come to their own aha moments. So I would just, for one, recommend you watch the entire video, link below in the description, as always. But yeah, that was just, for me, really impactful, in addition to just the general message and content, which I'm going to cover here. Even though it was really long, about an hour, the content can really be distilled into kind of a small, I'd say a small amount of time, so this might be one of my shorter posts. What he generally talked about today was the physics of progress, as he calls it. And just to make sure, got it correct, he notes that the physics of progress is really just the scientific method, but he has repurposed it or recontextualized it to apply to business. So it involves 5 steps, and it starts off with getting clarity. Step number 2 is identifying what impediment is between you and that clear goal. Step number 3 is coming up with the best hypothesis to how you can overcome or kind of conquer, solve that impediment. Step 4 is you actually putting to test that hypothesis. And step 5 is evaluating and repeating the loop. As he mentions, it's really an endless cycle, and you can apply this physics of progress to, not to a specific problem, continuously, forever, in perpetuity. So yeah, today I'm just going to break down those 5 steps, and then when I wrap up, there was a couple quotes he had as well that I really liked myself, but I didn't know that they warranted really the limelight of this time. So we're going to jump right in. Step 1, get clarity. So when Tom mentions to starting off with getting clarity, he means specifically having a clear goal, that all starts with a very clear goal of what you're looking for. The way he verbalized it, I hadn't heard this before, but I really like it, is that if you can't explain what your next 15 minutes looks like, so the next step you need to take to get towards your goal, what you have to do in the next 15 minutes, if you don't know that specifically, then your goal isn't clear enough. The example he used, which was pretty cool, was someone has a goal. Tom, I want to win a gold medal. So then you ask, okay, great, where at? The Olympics? Then they say yes. You go, okay, great, summer or winter? And they say, oh, summer. You go, okay, great, more specific. What's it going to be, swimming or tennis? And you go, swimming. And you go, okay, what is it? Is it the relays? Is it freestyle? Is it backstroke? Just really breaking down how, even though they tell you their goal right off the bat, you need to dive down and down and down. You know, for those of you who are into lean and continuous improvement, very similar to root cause or 5 whys, you're really just hammering down to what is that most specific, clear goal to attack. So really love that, nice and easy. Have clarity, have a clear goal. So step number 2 is identifying what impediments there are between where you're at right now and that goal or that state you want to be in. Because I guess it kind of speaks for itself, but if that's your goal, there has to be a reason that you're not there right now. So step number 2 is identifying what is that impediment. Should be quite clear, and I believe this would be correct in Tom's methodology. If you can't clearly identify the impediment, then you're actually not clear enough in your goal. Well, that's a little bit of my own opinion on that, but I believe that's how it would work. Step number 3 is to create or develop a hypothesis. You've got a very clear goal. You've got an impediment that's between you and the goal. Now you've got to have some ideas on how you solve it. Is it more money? Is it more people? Do you work harder? Do you give up and try something else? There's going to be a rough framework around what the solution to that problem is. So step number 3 is identifying what do you think is your best hypothesis for the solution. Step 4, as you guessed it, you need to test that hypothesis. This is the one where I feel I can't just glance over and make it seem like it's going to be another easy step. I feel like step 4 is really where this process is going to, where you're going to spend the most time at, and you're also going to keep coming back to, because as Tom does mention, you're going to fail most of the time. Generally speaking, you're going to come up with a hypothesis, you're going to give it a shot. It might not solve the impediment. It might open up another problem for you, and you're going to need to come back around and create a new hypothesis to test. So step 4 is always test your hypothesis, but just enter this space understanding that there's going to be a lot of challenges you're going to get pushed up against, and also a lot of failure of ideas that you think were great that might not work. So just be mindful when you go into step number 4. And then step number 5, obviously the end, is just evaluate and repeat the process. So whether your hypothesis actually did solve the problem and you actually are a step closer to your goal, you need to reevaluate and get more clarity around whatever your new goal may be. If that's not the case and your hypothesis actually did fail, you need to take a look and see what specifically made it fail and how can you improve that. As we all know, failure is really the most information-rich data stream there is. You're not going to learn anything more profound than within the experience that is failure. So yeah, to wrap it up, that is Tom's 5-step physics of progress. And for those of you who are, I mentioned this earlier, in continuous improvement, and maybe this is why it really resonated with me so much, is that it's just like PDCA, plan, do, check, act. We create a plan, we do the plan, then we check to see how it worked, and then we go ahead and create actions upon the results that we got. And we just do that in a continuous loop. I really think that's 4 steps, and what Tom here has is 5. The only addition is that he specifically notes an additional step for getting clarity prior to starting the process, which frankly I like, because arguably that clarity is the most important part of the entire process. So that's what I've got for our main concept today. But as always, I'd like to leave you with a couple, concepts, or I call them gems here. I don't know why that just struck me today, that I like, and I wrote these down specifically. He had, what do we got? We got 5 here. This one I thought was interesting. So this is about, he asked the crowd in the presentation, who knows what money is? I myself was not aware of this. And someone did know it, and he says energy. Money is actually the ability to secure and store energy across time, meaning that you store value you created through energy and effort you put into something. That exchange is held within money, whether you yourself pay for it from someone else or someone else pays it to you, that is essentially what money or currency is. It seems a little meta, but also a little simplistic, but I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. I've always looked at it as what I've called life coupons, so I kind of think that's another interesting way to look at it. His next was, if you can't solve a novel problem, all you can do is copy. And that was one I had never heard. I actually realized I didn't quite know what the definition of a novel problem is, or of novel in specific. But it's basically a new problem, or one that doesn't have a currently formalized solution for it. So he's basically stating that if you can't approach a new problem and solve it, really the only thing you can do, and it's not always terrible, is to copy someone who has approached this problem before and take their method and or approach and make it your own. Next one was, obviously it's just kind of small and dumb, but I liked it. You need to work hard, smart, and long hours. It's not one, it's not two, it is all together. And if I remember correctly, his reasoning behind that, which is pretty interesting, was that any one of them will lead you to success. But the fact of the matter is there's always going to be someone out there who's doing all three. So if you're not, you're always at risk of being overtaken or overcome by the folks that are. So your best bet, your highest % chance of success is to do all three. Coming in the home stretch here. We got two more. Yeah, I'll note this one. So in business, Tom notes, if you need to have a product or service, you should always aim to be the best product or the best service. Therefore, you don't have to spend effort in presenting. You don't have to spend effort in sales. Anytime you come across, whether you're raising funding, whether you're trying to get a new client, whether you're trying to sell the product, if you are truly the best service and or product, all you merely need to do is tell them. That's all you're doing. You're not presenting. You don't need a great pitch. You're merely communicating, we're the best, you have a problem, here's how we can fix it better than anyone else. And I thought that was almost a really, de-stressing way to think about approaching a problem. If you really have that confidence in that, you know you provide that level of value, you really don't have to sweat preparing and going into presentations and giving speeches. Is, oh man, is this going to resonate? If you're the best, and it speaks for itself. So I like that. And I don't know if I myself, I always focus on being good, but I don't know if I ever focus on the best. So it's probably something I'm going to take away myself. And last but not least, not that profound, but I found it pretty interesting. If something can be turned into math, it should be turned into math. I don't quite know. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, he actually didn't use an example when talking about this. But the way I interpret it is, if your goal, let's say if it's creating video content and you want to get views, or it is you're starting a sales business and there's a revenue target you want to hit, or if it's a profit percentage. All of those things are specific numbers, and if you say hiring more people is the way to get there, well, if that can be turned into math, how much revenue does one person generate? Divide that, how many people we need to add in. If a certain number of people can sell a certain amount of a product, how many sales do you need to hit that target or that percentage, and then break that back down. Basically, if it can be turned into math, it should be turned into math, is that math is just really a simple way to get to what would be step one, clarity. I don't know that there is anything more clear than numbers. So that's what I have for you today. We went over one more time, physics of progress, a couple nuggets, Tom Bilyeu, keynote speech, and I highly recommend it. As always, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it. Conversation started below in the comments. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by, and feel free to subscribe or share this out. You can tweet, follow. All the information to the blog is in the description below, the links to the videos, and also any related content. And until next time, I will talk to you all soon.